Hello and welcome to Womenpreneur Asia, the podcast that celebrates the journeys and stories of remarkable women entrepreneurs across the region. I'm your host, Krista and you're listening to Season 9. This episode is sponsored by Redbox Studio. Today's episode is one I enjoyed thoroughly as my guest and I had a fabulous conversation filled with strategies for anyone who is keen to start a business. Sarah Mei Chiang is the founder of Redline Asia, a brand storytelling agency based in Hong Kong. She and I had been introduced to each other last year and we are both marketers and entrepreneurs, and so we decided to record something deeply personal yet useful. Sarah is also the founder of Women Beyond 9 to 5, a platform supporting women transitioning from corporate careers into entrepreneurship. In our conversation, we discussed the realities of turning your passion into a business, what most entrepreneurs get wrong about the customer journey, why emotion is the secret sauce for building a brand that sticks. We take turns to share practical advice for anyone thinking about leaving their 9 to 5 to start something of their own. If you're just starting out in business and intend to launch your business soon, this episode is packed with clarity and insight. Let's get into it. Hi Sarah, welcome to Womenpreneur Asia.
Hi, long time no talk actually.
So Sarah, today we are going to get into a very fascinating conversation, and it is something that both of us feel very strongly about because we think that by having this conversation and perhaps even normalizing the conversation, women or even men who are listening to us will probably have a better way to think about their business. But before we get into that today, Sarah, could you give us a bit of a background about who you are and what you do?
My background is I'm a marketing strategist. I have a company in Hong Kong. I used to have a company in China. During COVID time, it was too difficult to fly in, so I have to have it closed. I serve brands to get into China. We would like to engage Chinese in this is what we do, and we tell a story for the brands. We also have a platform, a social platform called Women Beyond 9 to 5. And this is for women who's preparing to move out of their job and go into entrepreneurship and pursue the passion. And the platform itself, our main aim is to help people to find the right way to enter with a very clear purpose. That's what we're doing now.
And Sarah, I know you've had a long history with entrepreneurship, right? Were you always an entrepreneur at heart?
What happened is that it's an accidental entrepreneurship. Because it came in, the entrepreneurship to me is, first thing you must find there's a business to do before you enter. I know a lot of people want to come into with a passion, which is good. But there's also reality things in is that the passion doesn't drive into dollars and cents. So what happened is that I was in corporate world for some years, and thereafter I had an opportunity in the trade business. And we did pretty well. We did a lot of international brands with the help of existing customers that gave us the business. But you see the pattern is that you have existing customers. In the present entrepreneurship, we see a lot of people coming new and create business to attract and try to drive it and run it. So it's a very different way of doing things, but there is a way that we have to ensure that this business will work. You need to have it run in a profitable way so that you can also have a livelihood. It doesn't make sense if it's not making any return, it's charity.
Yeah, because we both know a lot of people who love to start with their passion. And while there is nothing wrong with starting with their passion, I think they should wrap around it a business model or at least something that helps them see how they can sustain their business for the long term.
Right. I see many young people. I love the passion because they really love what they're doing. They're skillful in that. The only thing is that when you're skillful in certain things, how you turn it into dollars and cents, turn it into the business, you have to look at a bigger, broader picture. First of all, you have to look at what is the market demand of such services. What are the things that could be going around it that allowed you to generate profit and income? I'm always emphasizing the generate profit and income. People in the passion are saying that, oh, you're so money-minded. This is no good. In reality, when the P&L came out and says, oh gosh, we're having a 0 cents or minus and we need to add funds in, that's no fun to doing, and that's not business. So we have to understand what business is about. You have passions, apply it in a way to skillfully and intelligently. But that requires you to do some market research and really sit down with a very clear head. What do you want to do it for? If you want to just do it for goodwill, we call it the charity, then it's fine. But you want to make something out of it and also make sure that you have a reasonable lifestyle, that you don't go so broke, then you really need to look at it as a business. So you and I know that in the business, it's not easy. Some business take 9 months to generate. Most of the business take 1 year or so, because then you need to have funds to support yourself. Otherwise, I'll be eating porridge or not eating every day, you know?
Or not even porridge. In Malaysia, we call it eating instant noodles.
Yeah. Instant noodles. Oh, that, yeah, Maggie mee.
Yeah, Maggie mee.
Right, yeah. At this point for the women's platform we are looking at one very important part is what's the reason, whether it is business or your career or things that you want to do, get a clarity on the purpose behind it. Because that will sustain you in the long run of knowing that when you encounter difficulties in your business, that you know that what you're doing that for. And what you see at the very beginning when you're planning was the future for it, and in the realistic future that you're seeing now, and how flexible you are in changing it, so that you keep your purpose very clear, so that you always have a clear goal. It brings you a little bit more focus on what you do.
Now, I want to play the devil's advocate. So I want to ask you, what if I'm a woman with passion, lots of passion, and I want to turn it into a business? And I kind of know my purpose, right? I will say that kind of. So what should I do? I mean, is there like a way for me to really nail down on something really strong before I go out there? And I know you mentioned market research. So I need to go and do some kind of research on who probably need it, right? Need whatever that I'm selling or whatever that I'm doing, if it's services. So what would be your take on it, Sarah?
Depend what you have. Product is more tangible, but not all products is welcome in sense of payable, in terms of turning into cash. So I give an example of someone who's very good at knitting. I mean, we start with a very basic thing. It's like, oh, I have a skill in knitting. I love to knit. I can knit the whole day. I'm fantastic. And then I can create many things. That person is thinking that everybody will love my items, but it's a passion. You have to step back and look around. And that involves stepping out of your comfort zone and look at your competitors. What is going on in the market first? And then you say, okay, if they do this, I can do the same. And why are they doing well, or why is it not selling? You do some comparison realistically, and you say, okay, which way do I want to go? Because you already have benchmarks, actually. So you have to list down and say, okay, if I want to do this, it's going to be this. And all that list that you do is very important. Because once you've done that, you look at the product and say, all right, why do they buy from me, not from them? They're already selling, you know? So you have to look back again and say, they are selling and I'm selling. And what's the difference? It's your story that makes the difference. So you have to create your own niche. People have a hard time finding that niche point. For you and I, we are in marketing. What's the difference from yours and mine? It's different. Right? You're approaching it a different way, and I'm doing different way. I do storytelling, I do visuals, I do things, and then I do certain different market. I don't do ad for everybody. And our strength is going to introduce into China. And I know we go niche and more into a narrow down to who you want to target, right? So for the same thing, coming back to knitting items, you have lots of knitwears and everybody's selling it. Then how could you fetch a better price? I'll give you an example of this person. What she did is that she's also doing the knitting and she loves it. And she thought, so what can I do with it? She went into doing something extravagant, not the usual smaller stuff that everybody's doing. She do something exaggerate. And then she put it online. And then she put a story. And thereafter, with some good connections, she started to have a partner, and they did a workshop. One leads to another. She had the business. You see, there's a pattern of getting things start move on is that you dare to start, but you dare to also step back and look at what works and what doesn't work. And that is the most difficult part for any creator, because everything I do, it should be good. They should love me because it's so good. But actually, in reality, since everybody's doing the same thing, so you didn't see it. So that is the part that we need to learn.
When you were talking about it, reminded me of something that I used to joke with some of my friends. We call it the cute baby syndrome, right? So the cute baby syndrome is every parent will consider their baby cute. No parent will ever say, oh, my baby's so not cute, right? So like everything you produce, everything that you make or everything that you sell is beautiful. It's gorgeous, right? No one's going to say, oh, this thing is so ugly. Like, how can I sell it? But you always have the cute baby syndrome because you are so in love with your product. You're so in love with what you've created. So you cannot be very objective when you're talking about your product. As you mentioned, to go out there and look at how your product compares to other people who are selling similar products and figure out what makes you unique and what makes your product more sellable than other people's products, even if you're in the same category, right? So when you were talking about the lady who knitted, I'm just so curious, what did she do that was so extravagant and was so outrageous that it became a workshop?
Well, one thing is because when people knit, they usually do little things, the scarf.
Like cute stuff, right?
Because everybody just put on the screen and say, I want to put it this way. And what she did is that she did very huge flower that at that point, nobody thought of doing it such gigantic size. And when she did this, and then comes with the color combination and all that, and presented, the people loves it and start to ask how much you want to sell for it. And that is already, once you have inquiry, that there's someone there's some interest there. And then because of that, one thing leads to another, then to say that instead this thing will run very fast, and then there's this trend. Why don't I create a studio that the people can come and learn? Because these days people always go to YouTube, do free stuff, right? But she did it in a way, it's because there are people that have the time and they want to do something different. So they went into the studio, and then people just walk past, because her studio is on the ground floor, and people walk past, say, oh, that's interesting. They come in, they look, they share, and she was very friendly, and also because she's very good in explaining. And then it become a sisterhood environment that people say, oh, that's nice. And they feel very comfortable sitting down, spend an hour, because the way they do it is that they don't do like, you must stay there for so many hours. To assess it. As long as you stay and you want, I help you to finish this product or this item so that you can give us a gift. I don't know how many hours you're going to spend, but I'm going to make sure you get it right. And people don't feel threatening, because their heart is that I want to do this right, so there's a gift, or I want to learn the skill. She's just being very flexible. And with that, people are happy. And not everybody could sit hours and hours. And they say, no worries, tomorrow you come. Day after you come every day. And then with that, it becomes like, oh, I come every day and have a cup of tea, very relaxing environment. And it's a very cozy environment. I must tell you, it's like a living room set up. But of course, they still have table, and you knit, and you chat with the rest, and you laugh. So it becomes an environment. It's like, I'm not just here to do this. And then people spread the words around. It's not a huge business, but it's a business that generates good revenue, also brings joy. So it balances off everything, and it's still doing well now.
That's a great story. When I hear your story, I learned that you don't have to be in the same category, even if you are in the same category. So knitting, you can go to YouTube and find a video and start learning how to knit. But I think what this woman did was she created her own category. Kind of like a little blue ocean of her own, right? Because she didn't just focus on the knitted products. She focused more on bringing people together to make something they are happy with, not she's making it for them. Of course, I guess if they can't finish it, she'll probably have to finish it up for them. But still, people love, that's that's the joy of handmade products. I think no matter how badly made a product is, the person who made it, and again, this comes with the cute baby syndrome, right? It's like, it's always going to be cute. It's always going to be a product that I made, regardless of how ugly it is.
Exactly. So if I received one from this girl, she attended that. That's why I got the story from her. And she gave me her bag, proudly presented. But then you also sense the kind of, it's not just because she's proud of what she has done, but she spent the time. She spent the effort to do it, and then she give it to me. And that means a lot because it takes time. It's not something you just go and grab from a supermarket or a shop and just wrap it up and quickly in 5 minutes. It's days of work. And that I appreciate a lot, and that makes a lot of sense. And that's why when we have a service or a product, first of all, we also need to address the emotion. Many times in a corporation, we forgot about the emotion part of consumer. Actually, we're selling emotions. We're not selling anything else. Even in our marketing service, we're selling to our client is like, with this, how great it is your brand appreciated by so many. And many people would love to watch your story again and again and get connected.
I like the way you put it. It's like at the end, it really is about emotions. Right. And even if it is a service, because for myself, I've always been in the service line. In a service line, meaning we create, for instance, now in our business, we create websites, we develop websites. But eventually the client doesn't really, what they want is not a website. They want what the website can give them at the end of the day, which is more visibility, more credibility. So again, like you say, it is the emotional aspect, like the joy you got, right? When you got the knitted bag. It may not be like, oh, okay, this is a bag, yes, but it is a bag that she put her heart and soul knitting it for you, which I guess that itself is what you felt, right? You felt like, wow, I feel so appreciated. She spent like 20 hours knitting this bag for me.
Right. Yeah, this is how it goes, you see. So for any entrepreneurs, I think that before you start, whatever business you're in, that you would like to be in, your passion, if you have the passion for that certain product or services that you do, that is already a plus point. But you never take the passion as the ultimate goal, because then you trap yourself in that you can't get out. So you have to look in a broader sense, and then you say, what are the options around it? I'll give you an example. My son loves soccer, and he used to play for team. And he got hurt twice, so he had to go surgery and all that. And he can't do professional football anymore. But he loves soccer, so what does he do? He has many options. So he opted to be a coach. I said, it's fine, because he's still with all the players, that passion, that kind of feeling of winning a game, etc. So that's what he likes, that emotions satisfied him. And he's still in that industry.
Coming back to just say someone says, I have a passion for baking. I always hear this all the time. I love baking. I love making cakes. I love cooking for my family, right? And I see you laughing because I'm sure you've heard this a million times. That someone comes up to you and says, Sarah, I love to cook. I would love to open my own restaurant or cafe. I mean, not even restaurant, maybe cafe first, or bakery, right? But how many times have I also heard that the person who finally opens the cafe realizes it's really, she didn't really spend all her time cooking or creating the food. Now she has to figure out her finances, managing the cafe, managing her staff, managing everything else but making the cookies or the bread or the cakes, right? We all have our passions, but we must know realistically what's the purpose, right? That's very important. But also knowing that whether it's cooking or baking, I like to bake. I'm not a professional baker. I just like to bake. I like to bake because I like to eat, right? But that does not mean I would like to open a bakery, because that's a complete different story altogether. That would need a different set of skills in order to open a bakery.
If you are a baker, let's reality things in. You really love to bake, you really love to cook, and people say that you do very well, and you would like to open a business, be it online business, or be it having a shop or cafe. So it's a different scale. So before you decide which one, sometimes I tell people, okay, how good are you? Is it only 10% eat it and say good because they're your friends? Or is it because 100 people keep ordering from you? There's a lot of difference in that. When people start saying that it tastes good, you start to try to sell it first. And if you really get repeat order, it's only not one time. If you only get one time order, you have to be concerned because it's like maybe it's not that good. So if you have repeat orders, then you start scaling it into bigger platform. In reality, is that you can always find different cakes from one app. You have hundreds of suppliers. How do you compete with these? First of all, you must know is that everybody's doing cake. What cake are you doing that you specialize in? In New York, there is a baker who does only panettone. But this Christmas cake, this Italian Christmas, is fluffy, right? It's good. But he sells all over the world. What does he do? He sells only one thing, panettone and nothing else. And he can send all over the world. Now, why is it so good? It's because one spread to another. It's because the repeat order and because he has the kind of die-hard friends. So if you want something of that sort, first of all, focus, find your niche, and then if, let's say, you start to have die-hard fans, you are halfway to success. But you have to be consistent. The money management part, the accounting part, you can give to an accountant. And the budgeting part, you need a partner if you're no good at money. But if you're in a restaurant, it's a totally different ball game, because a restaurant, before you open, you have all the license you need to apply. You have to find the location. And if you are the chef, then you can't oversee the operations. You need a manager. So all these count down to dollars and cents. So if you're not someone who wants to be stressed, then restaurant is not your business. But if you love the adventure of having a restaurant and etc., think about franchising or think about setting it up with partners. Don't do it alone if you are not skilled in many ways, because before you could open, you're exhausted. Before it starts, it's already end, because you won't enjoy the process. So important when you talk about your passion, your skills, you have to enjoy the process, because no point going to worse situation than you were before. When you're doing a 9-to-5 job, then you don't even, at night you bake and you enjoy with the family and that's it, But you open all this thing, it's really a can of worms if you want to open a restaurant. It's not an easy thing.
Since you talk about 9 to 5, let's switch gears to 9 to 5. So you see, the 9 to 5 you were talking about is that a lot of people who are working, who look at entrepreneurs and say, wow, I envy people who run their own business, who have their own business, who can dictate what they want to do or what they don't want to do in their business, right? Just say someone says, Sarah, I want to run my own business, but right now I'm still working. I'm in the corporate world. But what with the economy and what with the company downsizing, I'm really worried that one day I may not have a job. So this is always that dream, right? A lot of people have this idea that if I'm not working in a company, I could very well start a business. But both of us have different ideas about this. And this is something that I want your take on this, Sarah.
All right. If you're in corporate world, so the way you do things is very structured. So suddenly you're not in a 9-to-5 schedule anymore. You feel the anxiety. You might not feel the liberty at the very beginning because there's a lot of sentiment, right? If it's a retrenchment case, you probably get compensated. If it's someone, they just terminate you, then it's a very bad story, right? Whatever situation you're in, what I would suggest you to do, first thing you do, take 3 days off. Do nothing. Get out of your home. Go somewhere. A place that you always want to go, but you don't want to spend all your money, but you just go somewhere, all right? Take your notebook and a pen
By yourself, not with family?
Don't go with the family.
It'll be a holiday, right? It wouldn't be a retreat by yourself.
If you don't have a luxuries because you need to take care of families and all that, I would suggest you to take at least the least you could do is half the day. And you really don't have the time. What you do is that you do the very early morning, because that's the time that if you're an early person, or the midnight where you're a late person. And you take a pen and you start to write down your strength, what you have learned, your skills, and what is your passion. And then the next page you say, what do you want to see yourself in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? These are very basic things you want to write down first, because first thing you want to address is finance, right? Because suddenly you don't have an income. But instead of addressing the finance, look at your skill. Look at your skill, look at your interest, because this is a time, this is a golden moment that you could switch gear to something you're passionate about. Then you open your mind and say, okay, if I have this, if I really, money is not a concern, what would you like to do with your passion? But if money is not a concern, what you like to do with passion, you ask the next question. If I use that to do, if this passion I could do into certain things, what sort of return I might get and what sort of competition I will have? And with that, you think about it, ponder about it, you don't jump into things. And when the stress, emotion comes and it's like, oh, I'm not having a job, I don't have a job, stop it, all right? Be very conscious of what you're thinking. Spend that half day, the morning or the night or the 3 days, and sleep through it. And on the third day, you come back. And some of the people who do is that after the 1 day, you sleep through, you do whatever, nothing to think about it. The day after, so the first day you're planning, the day after, you relax. The third day, you come back to it and you look at it, does it make sense? And that part that makes sense is the one that's calling you. This probably is something that you want to consider. And then is where you start looking carefully what's going on. And then people who tends to lost a job and from 9 to 5 job, what they do is that they will frantically call everybody and say, I'm available. And they will frankly go into LinkedIn and look for jobs. There's nothing wrong with the person with that. And then after searching 3 months, they might not find something. Even they go through interview, they might not have an answer. Especially when you are after 40, 45, unless your network is very good that you can quickly jump into another job. But if you are still waiting now, at this point it's the third month and all that, plan a little bit ahead. Think about, okay, now in reality, if let's say I couldn't get a job, what would be the next best thing I would love to do? I would love to do is something important because you have the second chance to reinvent yourself.
I think that your 3-day cooling off period is very good. Otherwise, the person will start panicking because if you have had a job for the past 20 over years and suddenly we're out of a job, I think that itself can induce a really bad panic attack, right? And again, I really agree with you. Like the person should list down their strengths and what they want to do, what they are able to do. I also feel that the person should look at that list, but at the same time, ask people who know them to also look at the list and say, do you think I've missed anything from this list? I was asking a friend of mine and I said, I know myself. I assume I know myself, right? But what do you know about me? And so when she wrote back to me, it was quite surprising. Certain things that she picked up, which I never noticed, she said, oh, I think you're really good at this. I started to reflect and I thought, yeah, it's quite true in a way. So I guess having that outside point of view could also be helpful because sometimes when you're in a state, sometimes you may also have a lot of jumbled up thoughts. You may not realize that you may have missed out something. So maybe an external, a third party point of view, someone who knows you really well can help you with that list. So if you're going through this period of time, you want someone to really help you with that, just maybe go to that person and just see what they say. And that itself could be quite enlightening as well.
Right. I think that in terms of telling you who you are, what in their eyes is very, very helpful. I did that before and I realized that, am I that? It's so
Surprising, right?
It's like such a goody two shoes, and then good friends will tell you the real thing, and that is very helpful. But then if let's say you're looking at a business point of view, you have to be a little bit careful, because not everybody has the entrepreneur's spirit, and a lot of people are very conservative. So if you tell them something, they will put the ideas down and say that, oh, it's not going to work. The market is bad, blah, 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 blah. Before you start, they don't encourage you, they discourage you. But there's certain time that when you want to leap out of your comfort zone, you have to have certain kind of strength and be brave enough to study what is going on, rather than just listen to someone who doesn't even study the market and just telling you what everybody's saying. And that's not very helpful. So don't just listen to too many opinions. You have to do your own survey, and you must know what you're doing, because they won't know the niche of what you're going to. They will only comment, oh, market is very bad, why you do this? And that is hindering someone from moving forward.
So I guess the caveat to that will be, ask someone who probably is either in business or someone who has really some experience. Because I think that person, if you go to a person and just ask, what do you think of me, as what are my strengths? The person may list down, as you can say, all kinds of strengths, right? Which may or may not be related to what you're trying to do to start your business venture. But perhaps if you say, okay, I'm thinking of starting a business, and I think these are my strengths for starting a business, for instance, would you think they're accurate? And see what your friend or that person who is in business is able to contribute or add value to that conversation. And of course, at the end of the day, all of us have to filter out, because like you said, not everyone is going to be encouraging, and sometimes they can be discouraging as well for their own reasons. So after that, what's the next step? So right now, if Sarah, you say 3 days, and then I got my list of strengths. I know what I want to do somewhat. What next?
I give it a real example. What happened is someone I know that in the professional field, she's doing consulting a company. And she knows the market still has certain demand. It's just that when she was in a company, she was serving at a corporate level. But when she's out, she knows that the market will still need this kind of services. So she started working with partners, and little by little. You see, when you start knowing your strength, and then you see what are the businesses, what are the jobs or services or small services that you're able to provide. And the smaller the business, the service is, the easier that you can enter. Small doesn't mean it's like insignificant. Small meaning that it's very straightforward. Let's say you are an accountant, you can do accounting, right? And you could provide service. So you knock doors, right? You compete with the rest. It's a big competition. It's full of everybody's competing. So you have to understand which is the niche. Again, you have to find out what's so special that you can find out. Of course, ideally is that if someone already need that service, you can add on to it. I've got a girlfriend who does a lot of service in accounting, and she's a freelancer. But she has all the contracts, because instead of the standard account services, she does for company who needs a little bit more than just standard accounting. For example, they have certain accounts on charity and certain accounts on reporting for ESG. People need some expertise if they pay an expert from outside. And these kind of little things that you can add the value into your general accounting service. So you have to look at what are the services. And doesn't mean that accounting, so boring, everybody's doing it. And a lot of people who's not in the entrepreneurship will say, everybody's doing it, and a closed chapter. So you never start looking at anything new. You have to look at this accounting. Okay, what sort of accounting that people will need? Maybe they already have an accountant, but what you could provide more than that. Or, so be a little bit creative and open-minded. And these days, people is doing a digital search. You look at what are the common things they're asking. Then you say, in my industry, these are the kind of work. What else can I do that add value? Instead of they employed someone, they employed me as a freelancer. After you finish that, Does it mean it's the end of the story? No. Then you say, okay, I will start choosing one of that I'm best with. And I have probably one contact, they might be able to give me some ideas or give me some connection that I could ask another person. Maybe I land up first project. So this kind of effort you need to do. Tapping on your own network as well is not a guarantee, but it will be faster. So at least these are the basic steps you could take on. And do you want to be a big entrepreneur? Sometimes you're not born to be an entrepreneur. And then some people really say to themselves, I'm not born to be a business person. So you have a service, but you just don't know how to sell. So you think about who can sell my service on my behalf. This is another way. You don't need to be an entrepreneur. For example, you're a trainer at the company and you're being retrenched. So you tap on another training company and say, okay, I could provide this. But of course, you provide something even more compared to what they already have. You can always extend your zone of simply doing direct applications for a new job, or simply go approach a business opportunity, or through network, through what is already on the platform, so that you can go straight. You can cut short the hard time, but your mind has to be very, very clear what you want to do.
Coming back to that I think it is true. I mean, first you have to really find out if there is something, even if it's accounting, you have to put a creative twist on it. One of the quickest way to figure it out, because a lot of people think, oh my God, niche, it's so hard to think of one, right? Is go and talk to the people who could potentially be your clients and just talk to them. No agenda, no expectation. Just say, I'm going to offer these services. In your opinion, tell me, what is it that you have in your business? What is the problem that perhaps you find an inconvenience? Just talk to that person. And I think that this is for me, I think it's one of the easiest market research, is that just talk to the person who's going to be a buyer of your product or service, because then they would be more willing to tell you their problems, because everyone has problems. Everyone has something that they want to solve in their life. And no one makes time to talk to people about their problems. And I think this part is that if you can do your market research this way, you actually can find a lot of ways you can serve your potential customers, because they already have their problems. You just need to go and dig it out from them. Of course, in a nice way, just buy them some, coffee or tea, or just say, come, let me take you for lunch. I just want to talk to you. I just do some market research. I mean, who's going to say no to people doing market research, right? Just say, I want to do some market research. I want to talk to business owners like yourself and find out what problems you have. Just, let me know. And that itself would be very interesting, because after that, and I think this probably is kind of like a way for you to kind of hook them without hooking them, is that then they'll be interested. Oh, okay, if you ever offer that service that you're talking about, or that product you're talking about, perhaps you can keep me updated. And for me as a business owner, I'll be very keen if someone came to me and told me that, because it's just no expectations, but also for me, a way to keep myself updated and abreast of what's happening out there with this other person who could be someone that I could buy from.
Very good tip, actually. I think this is a key of the whole conversation, right? Whoever needs to not find a job or start a business, this from Krista is the best solution. Nothing else. If you can get this done, I think you'll be very fast in getting your new job.
No. I mean, this is also because through experience, right? The both of us have been in business for a long time, and both of us know that a lot of times we can do so much of research online, and you can read until your eyeballs pop out. But there's nothing like sitting in front of a potential customer and just asking directly, like, if I had this, would you buy it? If I offered this, what do you think? Is this going to be something you are interested in? And the person tells you honestly, and you will tell the person before that, disclaimer, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want your honest opinion, because I'm new in business. I want to start, but I really have no one to ask. And a little bit of humility and vulnerability goes a long way. People will be like, okay, poor poor dear, let me help her out with this.
It's pops up, okay, girls, get your smart face ready.
But it is true, right? I mean, Sarah, I'm sure you have done this too. I'm sure you've talked to people around you as market research. And I think that itself is one of the fastest way, honestly. Even if you don't meet that person, just say right now, you know someone in another country who could be a buyer of your product, but you can't travel to that city. Just like both of us, I'm in Penang, you're in Hong Kong, but we're having this conversation. So we could just do it online as well. But it takes some effort to reach out and really be open about what you're asking. Again, coming back to Sarah, your purpose, right? What's the purpose of you wanting to do this? Your business or even have that market research. So if we have that very clear in our minds, there's no way we cannot find a way around it. There's no way we cannot say, oh, I don't know. I've done my market research, but I still can't find anything that is interesting for me to start.
I recently experienced someone couldn't find anything in that sense. It's because everything that comes in, there's something they pick on and say, that's not good. That's not, it's nothing that suits their sentiment or the standard. So if you become too picky, you're not giving yourself a chance. So you have to be very open-minded and said, okay, it's a small job. But you see, when in entrepreneurship, it's a give and take. You provide a service, you get a reward. If they give you an opportunity to show the service, regardless of reward, if you're good, they'll come back. So the mentality has to be there. And it's not saying calculate dollars and cents that, I spend 1 hour, I make sure that I get back my $100. If you have that mentality, it's very hard to kickstart because people don't know you. People would like to give you a chance, but before you even do anything, you're asking me things, but show me your skill first, So you have to be a little bit flexible on that when you start in startup in entrepreneurship.
Even if it's not entrepreneurship, I remember I was in Manila. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a Filipino, and he does work with the local community. So he teaches the local children dragon boat racing. So I found that very interesting because he gathers the group of local kids, and instead of them loitering in the streets or playing on the streets, he gathers them and tells them that let's do dragon boat racing. He teaches them that, and of course it builds up their physical and mental toughness. I said, okay, then you gather these kids up and you have the dragon boat and you're teaching them, but where do you get your funding, right? So he says first he will approach the local government, the local person in charge. Then he tells me that he does this. He will do a proof of concept. He will train the kids first. He will put all his effort in doing it so that the local authority can see that it works. So this project works for this particular group of kids in this region. Then now when it is working, he goes back to the local person in charge and says, see, I told you, it's bringing really good results. It's keeping kids off the streets. It's helping them build up, their physique and they're healthier. So now I want to start another project in another region. Would you fund me? So he already has a working model. So they could see that. That's the proof, right? So, but like what you say, small things. I mean, he starts small, right? He started really small with just a small group of kids, one boat, but he managed to prove himself. So when you have a proof like that, people are willing to come in and help and sponsor him. So he's getting sponsors from countries like Singapore. He was telling me someone's sending him a dragon boat. So I was like, wow, sending you a dragon all the way from Singapore to the Philippines? That's amazing, right? But he says because he has proven that he can run this project, he can do this. And this is not even a business. This is a local community project. But people want to support you when you show some results. And so this is not just about big results, right? He wants to show that this is what he's trying to do, his purpose, again, back to purpose, what he's trying to do. He has proven that it can work, and therefore now people are supplying him with what's needed. So now he goes back and says, hey, I've got a working model. Would you like to come and support me in doing this? So that's how he does it. So that's why I thought it was very smart. Even though it's a non-business context, but I thought he's one of those people, that's why he is where he is. He's able to get community support. He's able to get people to come in and put in money towards a project because everyone loves helping kids, right? I mean, you're thinking about growing the next generation.
It's true, because at the end of the day, you're working with people. So you're working also with people emotions. The decision making is really emotion driven. So you must show things first, and you must let people understand what you're doing first, and that things will flow faster, which is right. But tell me about your side of the story, because I know that you've been doing marketing and you've been helping many people also to try to understand the entrepreneurship and how it works for them. Tell me about your experience. I know that the other time when we had a conversation, you had a lot of
conversations. We had a lot of conversations before we got to recording. Yeah. So, I mean, the reason why both of us felt so strongly about this is because when I work with entrepreneurs is that sometimes I wish people knew certain things. And sometimes it's hindsight, right? Hindsight is 2020, right? You only know after you've gone through the tough way, doing it the hard way, and then you start to be smarter and get better at it. And what I feel is sometimes a lot of people, like you mentioned, and I also agree wholeheartedly, is that a lot of people put their product first. They don't think of anything else, but they say, I've got a product, I can do this, I can make this, I can offer this. But they don't really look into the customer side. And if you don't look at the customers and you don't have a customer, no matter how beautiful, how gorgeous your product is, at the end of the day, you feel very disappointed in yourself. And I see that happen to some people that I know. Even though I feel for them, sometimes I feel that the work that I do is really teaching strategy in a sense that going through, like really asking yourself the same questions you asked Sarah, like what are you trying to do? What is your purpose? Who are you going to sell to? And how do you uncover your niche? So one of the things that I always love is to really challenge my clients to come up with their niche. And a lot of times people always say, oh, I sell to everyone, right? Like as if the whole wide world is their customer base. But I always tell them, you don't sell to everyone. You sell to a specific group of people. You sell to one demographic, one kind of people. And usually that type of people, to make it easier for most people who are listening to this, is the person that you are the person. If you are looking for a solution to your own problem, you are probably the kind of customer that you want to sell to. Because many of us have that, right? Many of us feel like, oh, I wish there was this product. Oh, I wish there was this service. Oh, I wish there was this thing that I could do, And they themselves are number one, their niche. They are also their customer. And they're also the provider. So this is quite interesting for a lot of people. They never realize that actually they are making or serving that product to themselves. When I work with clients, I always try to get them to think of this first. Like, who are you selling to? Because if you know who you're selling to, all your marketing is not going to be like super easy, but at least it's easier because you already know. For instance, we're selling to parents with children who have, just say, autism. You already know where these people are because they're in associations, they're in certain, parenting groups. They already are there. It's just how are you going to reach out to these people? So if you are very clear in your niche and your customers, you know who they are. It's just a matter of trying to connect the dots to get to these people. So you're not advertising all over the place or just telling everyone, hey, do you know anyone who needs my product and service? You'll be saying, do you know any parents who have children with autism? And I'm sure that itself would open many doors for you already. I'm sure someone says, hey, I know this association, I know this group. So in that way, I think it would be far easier for a person to do marketing once you know where and who you want to connect with.
I realized just now when you're having the conversation and sharing with us there's a few times that you use very good question technique.
Okay.
Even when you're asking yourself why you're doing certain things, that if you open a questions with a closed answer, meaning that what is my name? That is a closed answer. There's nothing new, right? You use why, who, and all that, the 5W and 1H, then you will be able to have a broader scope of answers and to gather more information. And just not, we're talking about why were we doing this and what is the purpose for and all that. And that one, when in your mind, when you're preparing to be in entrepreneurship, or if you're in situations that you say, okay, I need to sort of like switch or tidy up my business, how am I going to do it, what am I going to do, then you need certain mindset, how you think and how you process your question. Then it will bring in clearer answers. Of course, you always need to tap on others' business strength, because after all, whatever we're doing with the community. We don't do it alone. But when we start on a paper, coming back to someone who lost a job or wants to move up to 9 to 5, whatever situation it is, writing the list is a solo practice. But thereafter, then you mentioned the showing to a friend, then there's another scope, right? And thereafter, going knocking at doors, asking people has the potential, is broadening up your community already. So step by step is expanding, and this is how we work around in our community, especially for entrepreneurship.
In a way, our organic conversation has come full circle. May I say that? May I say that?
Yes.
Even though it's like you wrapped it up very nicely in a nice little conclusion for whoever is listening, that, okay, if you're right now, you're lost. Even if you haven't lost your job, if you're just thinking of like, maybe I want to start a business, because I hear this all the time. People want to start businesses because they see that it is something very liberating. Everyone has the right to do or start a business. But I think starting with a firm and strong foundation, like knowing how to get there, little steps, will be far more helpful than just starting blindly. Like, yes, today I'm starting a business. I'm going to register my business name. There's a lot of groundwork, I think, and that is something that both of us really encourage and feel that aspiring entrepreneurs should have that. Start the groundwork early and make sure that you have these pieces in order before you even go out there and say that you're in business. I think it would save a lot of people of heartache, and especially the entrepreneurs, right? Because it's going to be a journey. It's not even like you start today and tomorrow you're a runaway success.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think you did this is only the very beginning part of starting entrepreneurship. And actually, we're giving people the cheat sheet. Ladies and gentlemen, we pay a big price for it, okay? Believe me.
We paid a lot. We paid a lot of our own hard-earned money, right? To learn, a lot of sleepless nights to learn and to do this. So we thought that it would be fun to do a recap. In a way, it's kind of like an education and awareness. And of course, Sarah, we have so much to cover. So shall we leave the rest for the next episode so that we don't exhaust the poor listener? Too many notes.
Let them digest. So thank you so much for the session today.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Where can people find you and connect with you?
They could go to admin@redlineasia.com. This is my administration's email, and they will send the details to me if you have any inquiries. For women beyond 9 to 5, we have an IG platform which is called Hokma Women, HOKMAWOMEN.
Thank you, Sarah. I know that this is not the first and only time I'm going to talk to you, because we have planned a series of conversations around this idea of starting a business and also making sure you thrive in business, not just starting the business, right? Starting is easy. I always tell people starting is easy. You just decide to start and you've started. But, sustaining, thriving, making sure you don't go crazy running the business, I think that needs more conversations.
Yes, there's a lot of other skills. But thank you so much today for giving me this time. And thank you for your sharing. It's very useful. Remember the tips that you give? Wrap it up. That's it. You need
So, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
As you can hear from our conversation, Sarah Mei and I had a great exchange of ideas, strategies, and stories. We packed into this episode as much as we could so that we could help you get a more complete picture of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a mindset and a journey, and if you start with the right mindset, you will enjoy the journey. If you're transitioning from a corporate life or simply looking to refine your business direction, I hope our advice gave you some food for thought and maybe even a bit of courage to take the next step. If this episode has been helpful, remember to subscribe to Womenpreneur Asia on your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave a review so that more listeners can find our podcast. One listener said she enjoyed my episode on the power of storytelling, as it offered her actionable steps to craft her own story. If you'd like me to create more solo episodes, let me know. Just email me using the contact form on womenpreneurasia.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in next Friday's episode.